Going to review another option of doing the iris for the eye. Posted the one version previously in two parts, a little more of harsh structured, I guess you could kind of say, shading, and then this one maybe a little more perhaps maybe a little more realistic, so it's totally up to you. Just wanted to give you guys a couple options here. So what I did start off with was creating three tones for the eye color, and then I added them into the swatches, and I did make them global colors. I just prefer working with global colors sometimes. We do that by double clicking a swatch and going ahead and clicking global. So I have a line set up here to begin, and I'm going to use my darker tone to start. Opening up my swatches pen, I'm just going to bring that up to, say, about 4 point. And then I'm going to use my width profile here. So we do have a little bit of a bubbled out version. So I'm just going to go ahead and just lengthen that out a little bit. Bring it over here. Bring that back down to 4. And then I'm going to press R or use my rotate tool, and you get that little cross happening. That's your center point there. So I'm just going to take my rotate tool and I'm going to put it right directly on that. I'm going to press Option and then I'm going to click. I use a 6-degree angle. It's up to you how many you want to include in your full circle of the eye. Obviously, you'd like to make it even. I found 6 was a good amount. So I'm going to press copy, and then I'm just going to press Command, just zoom out here. Just going to press Command D and just keep pressing it. You can hold it down, and that just adds those irises all the way across. So I'm going to go ahead and grab all of those, and I'm going to Command G to group them. I'm going to Command C to copy. I'm going to Command F to paste in place, and I'm going to go ahead and use my medium tone. Then I'm going to take this and rotate this out to the side a little bit to create a little variation. I'm going to copy that medium tone one, Command C, Command F to paste in place. Go with my lightest tone now, and then I'm going to bring that out a little bit here. This will get changed at one point, so you don't really need to make those the spacing even. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and select all of these. I'm going to go Effect, Distort, and I'm going to go to Zigzag. So I do want my corners to be smooth, and then this is, again, totally up to you how much or how little you want this to have. It kind of just takes a little bit of practice seeing what works best for you. And we will change them from all. I'll just show you for a moment. So I'm just going to go with 0.19 to start. And as we can see in our inner eye, thankfully we grouped those. So I'm going to just go and adjust the zigzag so it varies ever so slightly from the 3 layers of these waves. So I'm going to use my top one to start, and opening up my appearance panel, I'm going to click zigzag, and then say, for instance, I'm going to give that a little bit more, or maybe drop it down a little bit less and leave it at that. Now I'm going to go over to the right side in my medium tone, and I'm again in my appearance panel, I'm going to click zigzag, and we'll see how these look. So make a little bit of a variation. Again, this will get adjusted even further shortly, so you can see what works best for you. And press OK. So now what we would like to do is I'm going to select all. I'm going to go Object, Expand Appearance. Then again, thankfully those are still all grouped, so we can move with those individually if we need to maybe make a little bit of a slight rotation, etc. But what we will actually do now at this time is we're going to select all of them. We're going to Command Shift G because we're actually in fact going to ungroup everything. Leaving everything up there now, I'm going to go to Object Transform, and I'm going to go Transform. Oops. Object Transform, and I'm going to go to Transform Each. So now it creates all these little wavy patterns in here. So I can go and adjust these as much or as little as I want. It's totally up to you how much you want to include. So this gives a real organic look to it. So I'm just going to press OK and show you how that looks. Now I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to actually undo again, and I'm going to leave those grouped. I'm just going to show you what happens when we leave them grouped. We're going to go transform each. So now it's working with the individual group shapes to transform these guys. So it's totally up to you what you would like. On this version, this uses this transforms them grouped. On this version, I'm just going to ungroup them and work with them there on their own individual and give them a little more of an organic look. So we'll press OK. So now what we're going to do is we're going to build out the outside of the eye. So I'm going to use my ellipse tool. I'm just going to maybe do an approximate. So I'm going to press Option Shift to create my shape. This is solid, so I do want this to be the darker, oops. I do want this to be my darker tone. But what I do want to do is I'm going to open up my gradient. I'm just going to add a little bit of gradient in here. Making sure we're on radial. So we're going to start is I'm going to drag, I'm having some issues with my mouse here. Pardon my sniffling. I'm going to drag my darker tone in here. I'm going to pull this all the way out so you can kind of see how this gradient isn't quite mixing properly. So the reason that's happening, bring over my color, is my brown color is a CMYK and the black that it defaults to is just 100% K. So what we do want to do is we want to make that a CMYK version of black. Drag that over and you can see it kind of adjusts that tone. Oh, sorry, not quite yet. If we add a little CMYK, now it adjusts that tone. So I do want to take my location slider. I'm going to crank that all the way up because I just want that dark tone to be in the outer eye. And then I'm going to add another swatch in here. Again, working off my dark tone. Just going to open that up and I'm just going to darken that a little bit more just to create a little more of a gradient around that outer edge. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm actually going to leave this layer, so I'm going to copy this layer. And actually, first and foremost, I'm going to Command Shift and square bracket. I'm going to send that back, leaving my opacity to normal. Actually, before we do that, just one quick second, I'm just going to slide that aside. I'm just going to select all of these and I'm going to group them. So Command G to group. And now I'm going to slide that ring out and over. So now I like the way that's kind of sitting in there. We can align those by centering them. So select everything, center them up. Now I'm going to select that eye again. So Command C, and then I'm going to Command F to paste in place. But this time I want this to be forward. So Command Shift, the square bracket, close square bracket, and I'm going to adjust my transparency. So this is where you can have a little bit of fun and see what kind of lighting works best for you. And the effect it gives you. So I kind of like the way the soft light looks. It really makes the inner eyes kind of really almost come to life a little bit better. And we don't need to worry about this because we're going to add that little pupil on in the center. So I'm actually going to use that top layer just because it already has a bit of a gradient. I'm going to Command C, Command F, adjust that transparency, and then I'm going to shrink that down. So now I essentially have my colors the opposite direction that it should be in. This should be more so black and then fade out into a little bit of a tone. So I'm just going to use here to reverse them out. And this time I'm going to move this all the way off and I'm going to move that up. And then just making sure again that when that gradient's out, if you're kind of looking for a softer gradient, we can add another tone in there. And I'm pretty happy with the way that looks. I think it's maybe a bit small, so maybe open it up a little tiny bit. And I think at this stage, we're done. So I'm going to copy all of that and I'm going to group it together. And I'm going to bring it over into, just move these palette layers aside, or menus aside. Move it on over to my illustration now. So what I do want to do next, just make sure I'm working on the right layer. So I'm just going to go ahead and size this down. So I do want that size to be fairly close to what the one side is, or it might just look like something's kind of gone wrong with the eyeballs. So that looks a bit pretty good there. You can also use, turn off your face layer, and you can use that as your base. But I find using your other eye works. And you can kind of just use it as your guide. So now it's a little bit larger than the actual top of my eye shape. So I'm actually just going to use this white part of my inner eye, which I do have locked right now. I'm going to take that that inner white shape that I created. I'm going to Command C. I'm just going to go ahead and lock that one up again. And I'm going to Command F to bring that in front. I'm going to press the / to remove my fill, because I'm just going to use that. Now I'm going to keep that outline selected, holding Shift, select the iris. So now they're both selected. You can see there's my path and there's my eye. I'm going to Command 7 to clip it out. And there we have it. So now what we are missing is that little shine. I'm just going to take one from here, press copy, and paste. This is literally just a little circle, but I've gone ahead and added a little bit of blur on it. So in your Gaussian blur, effect, blur, Gaussian blur, just to give that eye, adding that little shine without it, kind of looks a bit kind of freaky. So you can do 1, maybe 2 in this eye. And there you have it, folks.